home for initiatives which look set to change the course of history. And this summit is one of them. As we all know, it's called the Transform Africa Summit. But this is not just about Africa, because when Africa transforms, so does our whole world. And this is clear also from the mix of people in this room today, from heads of state to CEOs, and coming not only from Africa's 54 countries, but from all corners of the world. And I'm delighted to address you today, and I will make 3 very brief points. First, about our context today, because we cannot talk about Africa's single digital market without first talking about Africa itself. And when we look to this continent, we see some things very clearly: opportunity, ambition, innovation, growth, and most importantly of all, hope. Because for all the gains that have been made, there are many more on the horizon. The continent is surging ahead with its own development. It has set an ambitious vision through the African Union's Agenda 2063, and it's shaping our global development agenda by its leadership in implementing our global goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, we need to acknowledge that despite the opportunities, Africa still faces huge challenges. So we must look at both opportunities and the challenges. And if we want to do it properly, we need to focus on technology, which is my second point. The digital revolution has changed almost everything about our lives: how we talk to each other, how we buy and sell, how we provide the services that make our societies go around. And we do not need to look far to see this in action. Innovation is blooming in Kenya's Silicon Savannah. Exciting social and commercial startups are getting off the ground in Nigeria. And here in Rwanda, people can access doctors and healthcare on their mobile phones. So as I said, when Africa transforms, so does the world outside of this continent. And just imagine what else could be achieved if there was a digital single market. If the barriers came down, if integration deepened, if all the ideas, creativity, innovation, and skills on this continent could be shared and pooled more easily, I believe that the potential is limitless. And that's why I'm glad we are here to take a step closer to make this a reality. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the single digital market may now seem like a dream, and it will not be easy to realize. There is hard work ahead. But make no mistake, Africa can do it, and it will do it. This is a continent on the up. It will continue to rise, and we can either watch from the sidelines, or we can work in partnerships and rise together. Thank you very much, and good luck in your discussions.
Thank you so much for inspiring us. Thank you. Yes, you've done very well. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you feel inspired and we can see the partnerships and the will for Africa to really rise. I'm very excited now to welcome Carlos Slim to come up and make his intervention with his knowledge, rich wealth of understanding of different things. What is your view, sir, on Africa? What do you see? Can we do this? Let's give him a round of applause as he comes up. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Mr. Paul Kagame, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here in Kigali, and it is a big emotion looking and living what are you doing and what is happening today. It's for me very impressed how you are working together to transform Africa. I look this transformation like a reality. It is on their way. It's not a concept, it's not an idea, it's not a dream. It is a reality that you are working already on that. And also it's clear that you have the direction how to move that. The concept of the universal digital inclusion should be universal with this concept of the one Africa network, I think should be two networks, one for fixed and one for mobile. And if you have this possibility that is not very complicated with investment of private sector, public sector, financing, and make it a business plan that make it profitable, it will be very soon that it can be executed and it can be available, because in this concept of the digital culture and the digital reality we are living, especially for this broadband, there are many concepts. One is the infrastructure, other is the commercialization, the marketing, other is to put in the network the e-commerce, the bank commerce, the education, health, etc., etc. It's very impressed how Africa is looking the most modern of all the things that can be done with this more advanced technology, at the same time that you need to solve problems of poverty, of extreme poverty, that you have a lot of problems in health, in education, that you have a lot of people living in rural areas, maybe, I don't know, 70, 80% of the people. What is interesting is that you are working and attacking both extremes, the most modern and the lowest of the marginal problems that are very, very important to take care of them. But it's also very interesting that this work, this digital advances, this technology will help to solve the other problems faster, will be more efficient to give education. You can begin from initial education, basic education, etc. And what you need is connectivity. You need to have everyone with access to this connectivity. So you are, by one side, going to the most advanced of all the technologies in this revolution, in this new civilization that we are living, and you are going to the most advanced, but also you will take the solution. You need to attack the other problems. The other problems mainly are health, education, infrastructure, and one that will be maybe the biggest challenge is city planning, because many of the people that are living in rural areas will try to come to the cities, like happened in all the countries in the world in the last 200 years, 150 years. And you need to make what you will do locally to make people stay there, and what you need to do for city planning. I think this is very, very important, and this digital culture will accelerate the development of all the society in all the ways. We have already done a platform in Mexico, like 4 years ago. We call it Aprende, where you have the connectivity, you have the content, and you can learn from initial education, Khan Academy, Coursera, and very advanced education, free, and can be certificated. And I admire what you are doing. Where Latin America was also a colony, it has been difficult to get together, and congratulations for achieving this, with this effort, the union of many countries of Africa, that I am sure that when you begin to have this one network, one African network, all the countries will look to take together to have the benefits of this network available for everyone. Just to finish, two things. First, you talk why there is not connectivity everywhere. I think it can be solved, like in US, that is the wealthiest country in the world. There is a fund, they collect something for everyone, and they pay for the service. Around 20 million of the Americans has a service paid by the government. That is a cross-subsidy that will be done in many areas. In other places is the regulation, and in other places is the handsets, the cost of the handsets. But this program in US there is a fund. There are some countries that have a fund that is paid by the users, by the high-income users, and that is used to subsidize the consumption of the people that don't have the money, and the carrier, the company that is giving the service, need to give free the terminal, give free the cellular, and with some use that is voice and data, and with some quality to get connected. That is the way that they have solved in US, that's United States. It's a good point for that. Well, and the other thing is just to repeat that the President Kagame in his presentation make the essential points that is the basis of this association, of this development, of this way to change Africa, to transform Africa, that is very important to study, but also that in the agreements between the community, these 22 countries, they make some kind of guarantees about the security of the investments, the security of the regulation, and that will make very easy, not very easy, but I think will be very interesting to invest in this one network, one only network, or two networks for Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause. Thank you for that intervention, sir. As we come to the close, I'm going to come to each of the panelists for a final comment. It's what I would call a snippet. You know, what is that sharp, short thing that you would leave us with? And I'm going to ask Paul Kagame, President Kagame, to also be ready. I will ask you for a final word, a snippet, a way forward as we close this session. So let me share an African proverb with you. Suffering is a teacher. And if we think of it that way, Africa has had many teachers for a long period of time. But what have we learned, right? What's the way forward? What's the strategic direction? What's the wisdom? What's the inspiration? What's the action? I'm coming to each of you to share that with us. Secretary General, I'll begin with you, please.
You talk about suffering and teachers. You know, we have this kind of common slogan that we should not leave Africa behind. It seems to be always Africa left behind. That is suffering. But yesterday I heard from President Kagame that this word should not be always true. You know, that in fact, I think that in Africa, as I mentioned, is quite a number of areas in ICT applications, Africa is leading some development. But for me, if you ask me to give very short comments, I would like to just say that, you know, let's work together for the future of Africa, for the future of the world. Yes.
Thank you. Let's work together for the future of Africa and the future of the world. Dr. Abu-Zaid.
I think I'll put together many of the things we said this morning, starting by your very beautiful shirt, the single air market, the single free trade area, single digital market, trade in one brand that should be the one that's driving us all. Proudly made in Africa.
Proudly made in Africa. Let's push that. Dr. Ari?
Yes. So far, we have been showing why it's critically important for Africa to play catch-up and even innovate to lead. And we're trying to mobilize political will in Africa and in the corporates and impact investors to address this challenge. But I think we should not take away from the reality that multilateral institutions have a responsibility they cannot run away from. If digital inclusion is a critical driver of sustainable development goals, it is sad that over the past 5 years, global aid for trade allocations to the digital economy has declined from 3% to 1%.
Has declined? Has
declined. Oh. And today, on the 21st of April, President Jim Kim of the World Bank announced that the recapitalization of the bank has brought $100 billion more into the fold. But the multilateral lending institutions are only allocating 1% of their portfolio to ICT-related investment. I think ODA partners, multilateral institutions, and the development community has to face the reality that beyond the political will, particularly in LDCs, multilateral global financing for development commitments are necessary to ramp up the necessary funding for Africa's digital inclusion.
Thank you for that. A strong challenge there. Strive.
You know, for all of us sitting in this room, the elephant in the room is the unemployment of our young people. We have a massive, massive challenge on our hands. None of the things that we hope for can happen if we cannot create jobs. When young people are having to cross the Sahara and the Mediterranean in search of work, when we have all that we have on this continent. So what we need to do is to empower young people. We need to open up this continent so that its entrepreneurs can begin to create the jobs. And that's what I see in the continental free trade area. Trade. Young people, young entrepreneurs being empowered. So whatever tools we have, and certainly ICT is not a panacea for all our problems. Let's not get carried away. It's a tool in our hands. But ultimately, we must not leave this room not thinking about what are we going to do to create jobs for young people. A lot of the things that are available to us don't create jobs. And some of these technologies that are coming through, if we don't equip our young people with the right education, the right skills, they will not get jobs. And then we will get revolutions. Thank you.
Thank you. That is one of the most critical building blocks. As a mother watching my children, I see the importance of the right education to prepare them to either succeed in this new world of digital or to fail miserably. And we must decide as nations, as parents. President Kagame, I warmly welcome you to come up to the podium, having heard what the panel has said and where you started us off this morning. What are your final words for us, if you would, please? Thank you. Let's give the President a round of applause as he comes up. Thank you. Thank you.
Big surprise for me, but let me try. Well, first of all, it starts for me with, you know, when I came to government, which translates into, first of all, doing politics. The first question to myself was, what am I supposed to be doing in politics? What are my priorities? What am I supposed to do with all this? So the first realization for me was the business of government or of politics is allowing the people you lead to thrive, to develop based on doing many things, including business. That was my first business. My first business was to allow business to happen for people in my country. But doing business, thriving on that basis of the activities you do, involves technology, involves efficiency, involves innovation, entrepreneurship. You have said all that. Those are very key to what we find we have to do together between government and private sector. So in Africa, we have to have that mindset of allowing business to be done the right way and to enable everybody to be part of that, meaning the 1.4 billion people you talked about, is to give them that opportunity. It's to allow all those who are in the market to be able to do whatever they can, and many people have many possibilities, and provide just that environment that allows things to happen. So we invest in education, we invest in health, we invest in infrastructure, all that to produce talent, skills, to have a healthy population that then can be out there doing what helps them develop to another level. So that's really what I think was covered in this panel, or what many people here in the room have been discussing and are going to discuss in a few hours to come. And I just want to say Africa needs to come together. We need to work together. We need to have this drive that everything is possible. In fact, I was telling Carlos earlier, who said that, you see, as everyone aims at this high end of technology, whether it is 4G, then 5G, in communicating on the ICTs that are at that high end, we should be aiming at that. But at the same time as we do that, we are able to create a dynamism that actually goes back and addresses those problems at the lower end that affect the majority of our people. So it's not saying, no, let's get stuck there, deal with the lower end problems that affect the majority of our people, and let's not go for this high end in terms of technology and innovation. No, but it is how to bridge this gap that it always allow us to advance and make the future happen the way we want it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Such a critical note, and can I just say to all institutions of higher learning that are present, whether you are universities, and thank you to Carnegie Mellon, but whether you are universities, whether you are tertiary training institutions, please innovate around our challenges. Let's do that. That way we'll scale up and truly transform. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our panel. And allow me to end with the words of Dr. Toure as we started. Africa Rising is not an empty narrative. Our place is at the high table, no longer on the menu. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.